Hello and welcome to Colorado and Me. I'm your host, Jennifer Broom. Every single corner of Colorado has been touched because of the pandemic, and life in our mountain towns is especially challenging right now when we should be in the height of ski season. I want to bring in my guest today. I have Austin Deneen with Breckenridge Tourism Office and Tom Watkinson with Visit Telluride. And Tom, you're also a Telluride Town Council member. First of all, you're great friends, both of you. Thank you so much for joining us. I wish I was seeing you in person, but I want to start with what is life like right now? Austin, I want to start with you. Breckenridge was the last place I was when the pandemic started, and I know there's been tremendous changes, and it should be bustling right now with tourists.
It's an interesting point, Jennifer. Breckenridge right now, even though we are down year over year, we are still split about 50% destination, meaning non-Colorado, and then 50% in Colorado. We're still seeing travel outside of Florida, Texas, Georgia, and the ski winter traveler is resilient. They bank on that trip every year, and they're going to make it happen. And while protocols have changed and the way you kind of approach your ski vacation is different, people are still coming.
And Tom, I know folks in Telluride are super resilient, all of our mountain towns. I mean, you're just mountain strong. That's something that we often say, generally dealing with a natural disaster like wildfires or flooding, but now we're dealing with a pandemic. I know Telluride, it was one of the first places I went to after the pandemic when we were able to travel just a little bit in social distance. But Telluride quickly shut down. And is it because of maybe some of that disaster training that Telluride and other mountain towns were able to respond so quickly?
Yeah, I think that with this coming on, the ski season got cut short last year per the governor, and everyone became very reactionary. And then, as you know, I guess luckily for the mountain towns, the ski towns specifically, that was leading right into our off season where we are generally pretty slow, and it gave us a second to sort of step back and look at what was happening and what we needed to do as we were going into our summer season, and what was the best practices and protocols, getting information from at a state level and then a county level, from public health and all that, and what we could do to still move forward and have some economic stability. I mean, that's part of our health and safety is also being able to provide. And I think that's what a lot of the mountain towns did. And because we're in the Rockies, and we've got basically really only three seasons a year, because that spring is it's pretty slow around here in the mountains. It's very messy. It's cold. There's mud, and it's not a big travel time for us, and it gives us the time to breathe and kind of get ourselves together to move forward into the next season of summer.
So Tom, take me down Colorado Avenue, Telluride's Main Street. What is it like right now?
Right now, it's we have limitations. We're operating in the orange at the current moment, which means 25% indoor dining occupancy, 25% indoor retail, in your space. And then we have actually a 60% paid occupancy level in our lodging. And really, it feels like somewhat normal. A lot of people outside, obviously, everyone's wearing masks. You wear masks for the most part when you're skiing anyway, but even just around town, everyone's being very respectful of each other. And it's restaurants are just less full than they normally are, but there are people here. People are traveling. Telluride's sort of pretty much a destination resort, which means that a lot of people are coming in from out of state, kind of unlike Breckenridge or the Summit County area. A lot of our visitors and our skiers are actually coming from out of state. We don't have a whole lot of the drive traffic, although that is increased a bit just because of the pandemic and some of the travel restrictions.
So Austin, what is Main Street in Breckenridge like right now? What are the restaurants like in the shops?
Yeah, totally. Jen, it's really funny. And I think there's something that Tom just said about when the pandemic happened, and the governor did make the call to shut down ski operations across the state, like our communities are strong. Telluride's community is strong. Breckenridge's community is mountain strong. And these communities like really tied together during this time. And so, it's funny that all of us, our life changed in terms of one day it was one thing and one day it was the next thing, but like we all bonded together, and it's the cliche, and I don't know about where you guys are at in Denver and in Telluride, but like the loudspeaker at the grocery store in Breckenridge is like, we're all in this together. I'm like, because we are all in this together.
Well, Austin,
Austin,
you're a mom. You've got very young kids. What's it like living in a mountain town? Yeah, a very adorable young kids. Adorable. What is it like, doing this with young boys in a mountain town?
I wouldn't choose to be anywhere else. Right? You look at like the people in cities right now that are cooped up with kids in apartments. And, if you think about like, I can imagine from a parent's perspective of like wanting to disinfect everything I saw in public, but like, Colorado, Breckenridge, Telluride, Colorado as a whole is positioned so well in terms of we have so much wide open space, right? Like I can take my boys on the trail. We've made a pretty makeshift, slightly dangerous sledding hill in our backyard, but like realistically, like Colorado is suited so well for not only residents, but for people that are visiting the state. There's a lot of room to spread out and really just like take a deep breath in nature and just, yeah. But Jen, I wanted to get back. You mentioned Main Street in Breckenridge, and regulations are constantly changing. So if you're visiting, you have to do your research before you come and you know what you're getting yourself into. Right now, restaurants are at a 25% occupancy indoors, but I have never seen a more creative, flat out weird experience in Breckenridge of cabanas and cabins and yurts and domes and like the most wackiest dining experiences. So it's like if you're going to visit, like you can have these like pretty iconic, cool experiences that I vote that they should stay on past pandemic.
Me too.
I don't know if they are. Yeah, so don't quote me, but like also I think that there's an opportunity to like really like reinvent how we visit winter and how we visit everything. It's cool.
Well, I got to ask Tom, because of course we just talked about Austin's very adorable little boys, and Tom, you have a very beautiful teenage daughter. What's life like in a mountain town right now with a teenager?
It's different. She's a senior, and I feel so bad for these, college freshmen and high school seniors. This is not necessarily how you're supposed to find yourself and become an adult, but it's different. We just had our very first basketball game last night against Crested Butte. There's no crowds. It's the two teams, and if you want to see your child play, I volunteered to be the scoreboard, so I could watch her play. There's nobody there. It's interesting. We tried to make it as normal as possible, doing bringing everyone in. Here's our starting five and all that kind of stuff. But and we're streaming those games so that parents and friends and family and the community can watch them. Doing what we can, but it's easing back into whatever might be a new norm, really.
Did you pump in sound like an NHL game? Like fan noise?
No, we didn't do the actual crowd noise.
Sorry, that's not important, Jen. I'm sorry.
The JV teams were good about cheering, so there was defense. All the cheers were going on, but it was just a little quieter than normal.
Okay, so one thing for sure, mountain folks have not lost their sense of humor during the pandemic. Tom, I want you to put on your town council member hat right now, and let's talk money. I know the tourism dollars bring a lot of money into mountain communities to fund all sorts of different projects of just life in those mountain towns, sometimes emergency services and everything else. How much of a hit is this pandemic taking financially on services that y'all as residents or me as a visitor would need and get to experience?
Well, as far as town and the government side of things, we did whatever we could to help out, like business relief fund, the PPE, and then we did a lot of rent relief through the town of Telluride. as well as the town of Mountain Village, and the county participated as well. But to, help people out where, jobs weren't happening. You don't have as many servers in the restaurants or whatnot. And that was, we felt, our obligation to help the community. One obligation of helping the community. And then like you were asking about Main Street blocking, we blocked off our westbound of Main Street for dining and outdoor experiences, and just because restaurants were limited to their indoor capacity, things like that. And I just lost my train of thought.
No
uh,
worries, no worries. Well, guys, I got to tell you, like in my neighborhood here in Denver, I am actually starting to see new places popping up, say like new coffee shops, new bakery, new restaurants. Austin, are you seeing some of that happening? I know it's a very unique dining experience, like Orem has the domes going on, but are you seeing kind of a resurgence of things that are opening, say, going into spring and possibly coming this summer?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We have Breckenridge has over 100 restaurants and pubs throughout our, 5-mile radius of town. I just saw Rootstock, which used to be, if you remember, Jen, Doma, 1898. It's a old Victorian home from the 1800s. That just opened a couple months ago. Rumors has it has a French onion soup that will change your life. But yeah, shops, boutiques, all these restaurants are starting to open up. And again, they're operating in a time of reinventing, reimagining. When we had some of our lowest numbers, it was during the summer. People were outside dining, and it was amazing time to be in the mountains. I
Yeah.
expect that to come through for the summer. It's jury's still out if we did a similar walkable Main Street in Breckenridge this past summer and fall. But again, like when we can be outside and dining, and also to watch people dining outside before we got into normal, like 25 indoor dining, I was so impressed. I drove down Main Street and people were like, I'm ready to eat. I have been cooped up. I am ready to be outside, and I'm putting my parka on and I'm having some soup.
Oh, Austin, I
yeah, and
surely hope that the shutdown of Main Street in Breckenridge, as it was over the summer, returns. But Tom, I want to know about some of the businesses in Telluride. Cashmere Red, one of my favorite shops in Breckenridge, Siam Restaurant. You've got all sorts of different places to go and eat, and there's really no chains in either one of your towns. So, Tom, what about reinvention? What are we seeing new coming into Telluride?
people they're getting creative. A lot of the new businesses that have come up were sort of pre-pandemic plans. So, but they've opened up during the pandemic, and a couple of them are restaurants, and that's been a nice addition when suddenly you have less capacity indoors. So that's helped out. Cashmere Red and Two Skirt, some of our retail came out onto Main Street because it was blocked off, and threw a pop up and had some of their retail out on the street and out on the sidewalk, just to be in a kind of a safer manner and allow people to shop without actually needing to go inside. And
So Tom, so Tom,
like Austin was
so
just
Tom,
saying that, with the mountain towns and all that, and kind of tying in where I lost my train of thought, but back to the money side of things. Colorado, the rural outdoors kind of somewhat boomed. I mean, I wouldn't say we were up,
yeah.
but like our sales tax revenue was a couple points below a normal year. People were coming in. It was the summer of the road trip, and to get to the great outdoors and do the hiking and biking that maybe they weren't able to go to their beach or their international vacation, so they drove around the country. And the hit from this wasn't too drastic. Definitely, we weren't up in any of this, but people were coming, people were here, and our sales tax revenue in the town of Telluride were surprisingly good.
And that sales tax revenue is, I mean, it's critical for both towns' survival. So, Tom,
Absolutely.
is there any plan to keep, which I loved, the outdoor dining, halfway down Main Street, where Telluride did it a little more unique than other places, that you could actually sit down and kind of scan a menu and order from different places instead of just one spot, which I thought was super cool.
Right.
So
Yeah, it
cool.
was just and again, it was reactionary, and it worked out well to be able to, you didn't need to go inside, and you were able to order all your food from, you could sit in a block area and order from one of 4 or 5 different restaurants that surrounded you. So that was very neat. We are gonna. I just had a meeting the other day about how we want to get a report from town on how the summer operations went and an overall view of what everyone thought and whether it was successful or not, and start working on that for this coming summer, because we're anticipating that it's going to be a lot of the same or very similar to what we just experienced this last summer, and what worked and
Well,
what
I
didn't
hope.
work and how we're going to evolve.
Yeah, I really, really hope that in both towns, all of the outdoor dining continues, even the winter outdoor dining. I think it's such a unique experience when you can
It's so
go,
cool.
say, sit in one of the gondolas that's in Mountain Village there in Telluride, or in Breckenridge, sit in a yurt, or sit in, a glassed little shed or whatever. So, guys, I know festivals. Big money producers for both towns. I know it's probably still touch and go with a lot of festivals, and some have sadly already canceled, just being, I guess, going ahead and being proactive for 2021. What about the festivals? What kind of a time frame, Austin, do you see that we'll start getting back to those regular festivals? Is it maybe going late summer into fall?
Do you have a crystal ball? Could you send it to me? That'd be great. Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that it was 2020 was a year of the postponement in terms of a lot of our iconic festivals. So, summer, a lot of those festivals were postponed until 2021. I mean, jury's out, right? We're going to take health guidance from the experts and have it data-based and decide if we can move forward. There are a lot of creative ideas out there, but we won't really know anything until we're closer into the spring of what that looks like for summer. We're all very hopeful. We are all very hopeful to have those experiences. And like I said before, shutdowns and quarantines have only lit the fire of Americans' desire to be out in nature. And this summer and fall will be no exception. But Jen, one point I want to bring out, and I'm curious about this in Telluride as well, is like we had this thing of travel being taken away, right? So now it's this thing that's like a tangible thing that we value as travelers, right? As people that want to go see the world. And so,
Yeah.
we're really focused on finding people that have the same values as we do, taking care of our environment, taking care of our trails. And so I think it's a ultimate reset, right? We were just on the brink of overcrowding in terms of our top tourist destinations. And so now when we're talking about traveling again, like, how can you leave that place better than you found it and really take care of what we value?
Yeah, absolutely. And Tom, I know Telluride is home to probably some of the quirkiest festivals in Colorado. Um, you definitely have some unique ones, but then you also have huge ones like Bluegrass Festival. What's the layout, the landscape look for spring going into summer?
It's crystal ball. I mean, it's changing every day, and with these festivals, I think they're all looking ahead, not necessarily expecting a lot of change in our in what we can do in our mandates and all, but maybe how they can adapt. Is it possible to maybe have, it won't be a 4 day bluegrass won't be a 4 day festival, but can we do a one evening 2 act concert with, a couple thousand people in a park that normally has 12,000 people,
Yeah.
and have, slowly work our way back into that, and again, it's a public safety and health matter, and is that something that we can do responsibly? And you get in, Ride Festival, Blues and Brews, jazz, Telluride Film Festival. They're all trying to figure out, it's how can we adapt. Some of them are doing a good job. Telluride Mountain Film did a great job last year of going virtual, and the whole film festival was you bought a ticket and you had access to their stuff online. And I think we might be seeing a lot of that where what's the virtual world going to do, and maybe people are doing some of these festivals virtually.
And I think doing those virtually kind of exposes both towns and all of Colorado mountain towns to perhaps an audience that maybe has not visited or a different aspect of those towns. Now, both of you guys know I love free fun. Who doesn't love free fun? So give me some ideas. And I know, like, when folks say from the Front Range who are thinking about, I want to go to Breckenridge, I want to go to Telluride, you can go to gobreck.com or go to visittelluride.com for ideas for lodging and activities. But Austin, okay, so you know that one of my all-time favorite things to do in Telluride is go sledding at Carter Park, and of course, going and seeing the troll.
Oh, that troll. Love that troll. I think that the town of Breckenridge has done an amazing job in terms of making sure there's a diversified amenities for people to explore. Back in the summer, the town did a phenomenal job actually planning ahead for this winter so that we would have some extra amenities so people could safely spread out. Carter Park is an amazing offering, but it's popular. If you don't go there during the right times, you're going to be with a lot of your friends or non-friends. So they implemented a new sledding hill down on the north end of town. They did some additional grooming on our Nordic trails and additionally doubled a fat biking fleet for rental. So realistically, when we go into the spring, these mountain towns have some of their best spring snow conditions during the, April, March timeframe. You can really still have that kind of outdoors experience, and people always attach it to skiing. But there's so much off the mountain. Like on top of the troll that you mentioned, we have public art tours that are self-guided. So you can go and take yourself on your own art tour. So there's a ton to do that's absolutely free in the spring and all year round.
Well, and I think both towns offer so much. I think both towns offer so much mining history. And Tom, I know especially in Telluride, just from visittelluride.com, you can download a walking tour and see really unique spots in Telluride and learn about the architecture and the Wild West days of Telluride and Breckenridge.
Yeah, and we're kind of going that direction of, doing what kind of mining hike or tour you can do, getting a lot of the history, because we, both these towns have so much history, and it's an aspect, and it's being outside, and like Austin was saying with Breckenridge, not only are we like kind of directing them to one, have more opportunity to be outside and spread themselves out, but also being respectful and taking care of that environment as more people are coming in the summer, and there isn't a festival to be held up in the park, where you spend 4 days in the park. You're actually cruising around in the hills, the mountains, and the forest, and how to take care of our environment while you're out there, as you see so many people, as you're coming across people on your hikes and jeeping and all that kind of stuff, what you're doing to be respectful of the environment and take care of it while you enjoy it.
Well, and just, with that mining history, Tom, I mean, which I've done with you, snowmobiling to a ghost town. And Austin, what I've done with you is snowshoeing to mining relics. I'm going to start with you first, Austin. Is gobreck.com, is that the spot for people to go when they're looking at Breckenridge? Is that the spot to go to get the skinny on everything from what to do, ideas for fun, where to stay, COVID updates? Is that's the spot to go?
Yeah, www.gobreck.com is going to be your best offer, again, to figure out what's going on in town. And, Jen, we've talked about this throughout our time together, but this more than anything is going to be the year of not only the reservation and planning ahead and doing your research. I think we are doing our best to keep our guests that want to come the most informed that they can be, right? We don't want you to come to town and be surprised that you need to wear a mask or anything along those lines. I'd be surprised if anybody didn't know that these days, but realistically, like at gobreck.com, that's all spelled out for you. We're doing our best to get that information digested down. So when you come, I need to make a reservation. I got to wear a mask. And it's just a better experience all around.
And Tom, visit tellyourride.com, the spot for folks to go.
Visit Telluride.com, either one. And yeah, it's, we want everyone to be well informed. It seems the booking situation is maybe turned around a little bit, where you find out if you can get lodging and do the activities you want to do, and then you go for the actual travel part of it. It's sort of, I think it's probably switched around quite a bit, where you used to book your flight first and then you went from there. It's done a 180 on itself, and you kind of start at the other direction, work your way back. But
well,
yeah,
I
definitely.
appreciate both of you joining me, and just both of your insight, not only as professional insight, but also your personal insight of just what it's really like in mountain towns. And hey, keep staying mountain strong. Let's keep praying for snow, because that's good for not only winter, but also for our summer fun. Thank you so much for joining us on Colorado and Me.
Thanks for having us.